What is your takeaway from this entire third season?
This is one of the hardest takeaways I've had to write because I had to stop
Yeah.
so that I wouldn't just keep going. So I did bullet points and I just thought I'd elaborate upon
Sure.
those. Gotta say it first out the gate, like we always do. The visually stunning show that is The Orville. The special effects this season, from start to finish, it never dipped anywhere. It never got a little shaky anywhere. It looked good the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
And no episode was better than the other for the special effects. The details, it was a stunning show. And if you love space and space epics like we watch, this is one of the best, I think, for special effects.
We've always had our little nitpicks and critiques here and there about various aspects of the show, and we do it out of love because we love the show. We have never been able to punch a hole in the special effects. They're flawless.
Literally, there were so many scenes this season that were not necessary to the plot, but they put it in there anyway just because it looked good.
Yes.
And I fully respect that.
Completely. Same. Right on board with you.
I could talk for hours about the special effects. Like, I'm already thinking through nebulas and, asteroid belts and all these things. And just, the show looks great. And I really appreciated that. Another thing that was a big thing I enjoyed watching this season is Isaac's storyline from Electric Sheep all the way through the end. Getting to watch Claire and Isaac's love story blossom more. The discussions we had specifically about, is he becoming more sentient with emotion? I really loved watching that. And also, Isaac was so funny this season. I really loved the way that Mark Jackson delivered lines and, also made me cry a lot.
Yeah.
Which brings me to everybody's performances this season. Like, oh my God. All of them, every single one of them had moments this season that made me very emotional or happy, and just like the way that this whole crew and this whole cast of people work together to make a show that makes me feel an array of emotions every single time I sit down to watch it, just leaves me walking away feeling so good and just sometimes utterly devastated, but also just it completes me in that sci-fi hole that I have sometimes. So I have to shout out every single actor on this show who just knocked it out of the park with incredibly emotional performances, playing difficult parts like an antagonistic character, or just making us laugh. It was just so good. And I very much wanted to applaud them for what they do. I also really love the philosophical discussions this season, and they dove deeper this season 3 versus season 1 and 2. And season 1 and 2 had some really great discussions as well. This one just kind of opened the book a little bit more, and I just really appreciated that from a standpoint of just a human wanting to think more deeply about things, because it's not just a show where you put your feet up and you eat some popcorn. You can do that, but if you want to explore some of these topics further, I really appreciate the discussions that it opened.
Yeah.
And it was just a mix of everything, though. There was a lot of good, fun things in this season, and a lot of stuff that made you, question a lot of things. I think what I also enjoyed is the dynamic nature of each episode. There's something different. And they really mixed things up. We had like a horror episode. We had some classic sci-fi. We had mystery. We just had everything. And I just feel like the way that they threaded this season through, and then at the end, Future Unknown being like a warm hug, was really nice.
Yeah, it was.
They had fan favorites returning like Havina. We got to see Topa's story. There was surprises like Dolly Parton. There was just so much that you can talk about from season 3 specifically. It's just almost hard to put into words.
I understand
what this show did this season. It's kind of impressive. It is impressive, but it's also kind of like, how did they do this?
Yeah.
I think because when we were recording and we were in it, it's like you're just week 1, week 2, week 3, like watching, recording, and like editing and all that. And now that we've had time to kind of sit with it a little bit more, and we haven't had new episodes, which has been really sad. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's marinated with me a lot, and I've just really appreciated all these things that I maybe didn't think about right off the bat. And just for the show as a whole, what it accomplished this season was incredible.
Yeah. Looking back at it in hindsight, it's a whole different animal than when you're in the thick of it. And as a whole, just stunning.
It's just awe-inspiring, honestly, from just a creation standpoint and from a viewer standpoint. And the fact, I also have to shout out the people behind the scenes who work so hard to make this show what it is, because they do make the show what it is. Mm-hmm. From the editors to special effects to costume design, just everything was impeccably done. And, you know, I find it's hard for me to find flaws with this season, to be quite honest. The only thing I could come up with, and I kind of mentioned it earlier in the episode, is I'd love to have more episodes with features of John or Gordon. And like, you know, we got a lot of certain characters this season. Give me more. Give me a 24 episode season. Just dive into all these other characters. But even with that, it's such a small thing that I couldn't find a lot of flaws with this, with it.
If
I
your
just
complaint
enjoyed
is
it.
Give me more, then
my complaint is to give me more Orville. Like, I don't know. Overall, I got my favorite episodes from this season, which is A Tale of Two Topas, with a close second of From Unknown Graves. Mm. I just used to be like, oh, I love them all like my kids kind of thing. But this season, I had some standouts that started making a list of like my favorite episodes of the show.
Yeah.
And I walked away feeling satisfied, wanting more, and just happy that it exists, to be honest. And just kind of being in awe of what we were able to do this season with the show. Like, just talking about it and the experiences that you and I have had alongside watching the show that we love.
Yeah, at this point, those things are inseparable from our experience with just watching it. Like, even going back and watching now, I think about the conversations that we've had with each of those episodes.
And like we kind of talked about earlier, is like the universe, looking at the fun facts and like, but then also talking to the people who work on the show. Mm-hmm. It makes this universe more rich and enjoyable. And so even though we do a lot of this stuff, I could see how maybe for some people it could feel like work, but it's easy and fun. And it's been very, like I keep saying, satisfying. It's the best word to say. This season of The Orville was just satisfying to me in so many different aspects. And I'm walking away like, man, why is it over? But also excited that it happened.
Yeah. That's
my very rambly takeaway from season 3. What is your takeaway from season 3, Rob?
Well, I'm going to start off with to be completely honest, I was a little worried at the start of the season.
Really?
I was.
I loved Electric Sheep.
The first 3 episodes, it's not because I didn't like them. It's not at all for that reason. The first 3 episodes are either dark or really heavy.
Even like Shadow Realms?
Dark in the sense that it's horror. Like, we go from suicide to horror to death. So I'm just like, okay, wow. They're like, we got to lighten it up at some point, or else it's going to be a lot. So I was at a little worry at the beginning in that sense, that tone was going to continue the entire season.
My little philosophical butt over here is just eating it up.
Yeah. And again, it's not that they're bad episodes. I enjoyed watching them. It's just that they take a lot out of you. So I was like, oh, this is going to be just a heavy season. And it was, but not in that way that I thought it might be from the beginning. By the time we got to Gently Falling Rain, my doubts had quickly disappeared, and every episode that followed was absolutely amazing. Not only do I think this season has some of the best episodes of the entire series in it, but this is also the strongest season of The Orville so far. I think it's become what it's always wanted to be. It's become what Seth MacFarlane wanted it to be from the beginning. And I am happy that we got to see that kind of grow up and go along with it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been watching season 1 a little bit and moving through the seasons, and it is like watching the show grow up, and it's really really rewarding.
Yeah. There were some fan complaints early on about the lack of humor in this season, but anyone who's heard me talk about the show for the entire run knows that I've always wanted them to dial the jokes back a little anyway. For me, season 3 found the perfect balance. The humor is, I know we've used this word a lot, but the humor is way more organic and it never feels inserted for the sake of it. And as I mentioned in my top 5, I think that resulted in the jokes and the humor hitting harder because they felt more earned.
It is different than like season 1 and 2, because even just watching back, the show has changed. Like it's hard to not admit that the show has changed, which I think for me took a little getting used to, because it was like, well, oh, this is different. But I quickly acclimated and I was like, I still love this. And like you said, the jokes were more organic and they felt purposeful in where they were placed. And they didn't fully ever get rid of it. So, yeah. And I just, I really feel like they did find a good balance.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to get used to the new bridge.
You got to get used to, see, it took Rob 3 episodes to get used to the new bridge. So,
as we've said so many times, the visual effects this season are easily some of the best that I've ever seen on a TV show. I cannot possibly commend and applaud the effects team more. It feels very redundant to say it over and over, but that is just how good they are.
Yeah.
It's just so impressive. I can't. That's all.
It's so good.
Yeah. The writing this season has been so good. I felt that every character was represented well. Even if some didn't get the spotlight as much as others, we still saw a lot of growth in a lot of those people. They managed to not only introduce a new character in Charlie Burke, but also gave her a satisfying arc in the span of 9 episodes, which when you think about it is crazy. That is not an easy task at all. Then you look at all the past storylines they were able to revisit this season, and it is so impressive given how many plates they were spinning, what they actually pulled off.
It's masterful, honestly.
It really is. The amount of stuff they were able to interweave. And I was never expecting, especially again, after like the first 3 episodes, you get a little bit of a revisit with Denal coming back. But aside from that, there's not a lot of big touches to previous season stuff, but we had just direct sequels, it felt like, to some of those storylines in these episodes. And again, not thinking it was something I wanted, but clearly I did, because I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I want. So I love that.
Yeah.
And then finally, as a whole, this is not only a fantastic season of The Orville, but it is one of the best seasons of a show that I've ever seen, like at all. It's also possibly the biggest growth I've ever seen in a show from the first season to the current season, when you look at where it came from and what it's become. So no matter what happens with the show in the future, I am glad that we got to watch it grow into what it has become.
It was well worth the wait, too.
Absolutely.
Because like you and I made the season of Quantum Drive after the show had already come out. And, it's been a while since, COVID happened, but I was not disappointed at all with this season.
No.
And what they've accomplished just is amazing. I can't even fathom how they pulled this off. Like, it is like one of the best seasons in a television series I've ever seen. It doesn't feel like TV.
No, and I think that's what they set out to do. They kind of said, they used that a lot. They said they made 10 mini movies, and they really did.
Yeah. Like, because, like sometimes TV shows pull out all the stops for the pilot and then, the wheels kind of fall off.
Yeah. Or just for the season finales or.
Yeah. And that didn't happen. Like they through and through. It's just, I think it's a testament to the people who make this show. They care. I know I say that a lot, but I really do feel like they care. and they care about what they make so that us as viewers feel cared about, which I know that might sound kind of silly, but I feel like when I watch this show, I feel like they had me in mind when they made it. And I can tell a lot of them are also sci-fi fans because they just hit the marks. They really do.
Yeah, well, we've seen some of where these creatives have come from other sci-fi, and we've had the opportunity to talk to some of them that just have a true passion for this genre, and it shines through so much.
Yeah. It's just an incredible season through and through, and I'm just fingers crossed, everything's crossed for season 4.
Yeah. Fortunately, though, that is not the end for this podcast. It's for this episode, but we have more things to come. So we just want to make sure that you know that there is more stuff coming. So for one, we have more interviews coming. We'll be doing a discussion of the novel Sympathy for the Devil, which is the novel and audiobook. I highly recommend you pick that up. And we'll be doing a special Meet the Hosts episode in the future. So this is something Katie and I talked about a little bit. We've been doing this show for over 3 years now, which is crazy to think about. Even if there was a bit of a break in there, we've been doing this show for over 3 years now.
Yeah.
And you've probably learned a decent amount about us as people through some of the discussions that we've had and stuff. But we're going to give you even more information and share some details about some of the other things that we make. You might even see some of those other things that we make hit this podcast feed to kind of clue you in as to other things that we are making. But if you also have any questions that you would like Katie and I to answer about ourselves, just as people send in questions about the Orville season 3, and these questions that you can ask here don't have to be Orville related. You can ask us, what's your favorite color, or what's your favorite animal, or any sort of random thing like that. You can email those questions to quantumdrive@thegeekgeneration.com, and we will get to as many as we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask us questions. Ask us stuff like we would ask the cast or the crew or something. Like,
oh, interesting. Ask us about podcasting. Ask us about other sci-fi. Ask us about,
Ask us who our next, I was going to say who our next generation captain is. Clearly, y'all know my captain, Picard. Never mind. Forget that
one. But aside from that, we'll be back with new episodes soon, and we will see you then in the future. Hey,
thank you so much for watching. This is just a segment of the full podcast that Rob and I do. So if you want to hear more of our thoughts and full episode discussions, go to thegeekgeneration.com/quantumdrive.